Yeah, like the gun's like very close up.
Okay, give me just a second. I think that's just the movement.
Oh, it's because he was jumping. Never mind.
Yeah. I was thinking I haven't limited my field of view in any way, so that shouldn't be happening, but all good. Okay, so before we get into it, do you have any questions you generally want to go over, things you want me to tackle, or shall we get into it and then we'll see issues and, we can hone in on what the
Yeah,
biggest ones are?
let's just see the issues
Cool.
first.
Let's
I
get
don't
to
really
it.
have any questions.
Totally fine.
It's very laggy though.
Yeah, I think I have a upload going, so let me go ahead and pause that for a moment. Let's go like this and see if we can make that a little bit better. I'm going to rewind for just a second and tell me if it stabilizes. If it doesn't, there's one more thing I can do.
Still pretty pixelated.
Okay, that's fine. There is one thing I can definitely do here. So let's do that and go like that. And that should quite nicely clean it up. At some point we do get to, hey, Discord is only going to let us have 30 frames per second and such, but we should be able to get something.
Well, that's fine.
perfectly...
It's just the
Oh yeah, totally.
quality is very bad.
Is that a bit cleaned up for you?
It's still very pixelated. Maybe like redo it.
Yeah, let me and redo the share exactly. Let's do a quick rewind here.
Ready for battle. 5, 4.
Yeah, it's way.
2, 1.
Okay. If we're still struggling to see, I am separately recording, and I will be sending you the VOD, and the VOD should be in higher quality than what you're seeing here. Sound good?
Yeah.
Cool. Perfect. Okay, so I don't hate this or anything, but it is the sort of thing where you don't know what the enemy composition is, and you're not letting your Orisa sort of be a human meat shield for you or anything. Robot meat shield, I suppose. Would like them just a touch in front of you. You're not at a different angle yet. You're not doing anything like that that sort of gives you added protection, added threat. This is literally just, be one step slower and you minimize your risk of getting picked off. Obviously, you don't get punished here. Okay, you take a little chip damage, but looks like you don't get punished. But that's fine. You then follow the halt, which is good. First shot into the bubble is fine. I want to see that again because I think I saw a second shot into the bubble, which I'm not going to be super critical about, but I just want to make sure I see what we're seeing. Bubble, one shot into it, two shot into it. Okay, so you're shooting at the bubble, but that's not a big deal.
Oh there.
You knew she didn't have bubble there, so I can live with that one. I don't think you were ever going to get good follow-up, but we'll be fine with that. I think really the bigger question here is why we're being quite so aggressive in general with our hero. So if we take a look at this, totally get why you're up here. You're using your shield. Your shield's gone. Your Orisa's right there, fortifying in front of you. And she's spending her fortify, and she's spending this hopefully so that, she can rotate, she can push with this, she can use this as a rotational cooldown. But you want to make sure that if she's doing her, hey, I've got, basically 25% damage she's taking, that math isn't quite right, but it's close to that between armor and fortify and how they stack together. Like, that's a lot of damage reduction, and you're stepping in front of this a bit. Fortunately, they're looking at her for now, but you want to be functioning a little more in the, once you take damage, it's going to cause you to play more defensively. And even though this might be like, hey, I'm getting slightly better shots by being 2 steps in front of her, this isn't a steep enough angle to be meaningful. Like if you were over here with cover, or if you were up here where, hey, you've got this, or, if you had a steeper angle with her, totally fine with you going, hey, this is worth it. I, don't have good protection here, etc. But this isn't
Well,
really
if I hold that bottom left angle, what about
Here?
damage drop off? Wouldn't it be like less effective?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would totally be in damage drop off range. But I'm not actually referring to this as some great angle right here. I mean, this would be a pretty good angle, but you're not going to reasonably get here on McCree. Really where I want you is I want you more in Rissa's pocket here, where you've got a place to close. Like you are in a place where you are in, if they turn and they want you, all you've got is roll, right? All you've got is roll for
Yeah.
getting to safety. She can't throw out a new shield to help you. And this wasn't like an aggressively good second angle. So like if your Orisa was here and you were here, that's totally fine because it makes the enemy sort of strain their necks and go either I'm looking at you, or I'm looking at you, or I'm looking at you, or I'm looking at you. And even if they're back far enough that they get both of you on the screen, they're not meaningfully influencing both of you, right? They're sort of picking.
Yeah.
Here, this Zarya is just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to zap you, and if you do something threatening, I'm going to see it. I see how you're aiming, and I can use my movement to try to make that more difficult for you. I see that you're aiming at me. I can close the angle, etc. Similar thing over here with Hog. So if you're not getting an angle that's separate enough and good enough, and good separate angles have their own cover like this, but if this isn't a meaningfully different angle, just have your Orisa be the, it's annoying. It's just like when you're standing behind a Reinhardt and you're going, oh, I don't really want to have to shoot through my Reinhardt. Yeah, your shots aren't going to be as good. There's some clutter on your screen, etc. But it is actually meaningfully more safety. And as McCree, you do sort of work in the pocket of your tank a lot of the time because this isn't meaningfully better. You're going to have a little better aim because you can see a little bit better for a lot more risk, if that makes sense. And that might feel like, oh, I need to do more, but what you're going to find is you take chip damage, and then once you take chip damage, let's slow this down. You take some chip damage, so you use your roll. And that might feel like, oh, that's fine. I use my roll. My roll, A, doesn't really take me to safety. It just takes me further back, which helps a little bit against Zarya, yes. But what you run into is you suboptimally used your roll. You didn't get a full fresh clip out of your roll. You still had 2 shots left on that clip, right? So you've decreased your damage now by having been in that position because you got a suboptimal roll, and you are probably going to play this more carefully now. Yeah, you're sort of going, hey, I'm looking around, I'm trying to find a place to go rather than taking my shots. If you're here, maybe your first initial shots are a little less good, but you get to keep making those slightly less good shots the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Need a doctor.
Yeah, and you're suffering from fall off there. And you don't have flash, so that's going to just be rough. You get your heals. Good. Good decision. Okay. Let your Hog face tank for you. And this is kind of the same thing, where I don't mind you going out for this because you guys have numbers, this is fine, but you're sort of in front of your team. You don't even have your Tracer in front of you here, right? Where it's like, hey...
You just wait for like the tanks to be like taking that space. Like my job is just to like take advantage of the space that my tanks create.
Right. Like it's the sort of thing where when you're aggressively making a play, you're not aggressively making a play all that often on McCree, especially when you have real tanks. If you have something like, your tank line is Ball Diva, sure, you're going to have to do wacky stuff. But you have something pretty real in terms of a tank line here with Orisa Hog. So yeah, if your Hog can be in front of you, that's great. But even beyond that, even if we just think about your DPS partner, if you're in a place where, hey, you can be here, but your Tracer is back here, your Tracer needs to be, your Tracer's usually going to be over here, usually going to be back here. If you're in front of your Tracer, that could just be that your Tracer is wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's terrible that you're here, but if your Tracer is this far wrong, your team owns less space, right? Like space is sort of space isn't like a permanent thing. Space is a never-changing thing, and your team owes significantly less space if your tracer's over here. If your tracer is behind you and doing work from behind you, you are the tip of the spear, and yeah, you should pretty much never be the tip of the spear as McCree. It's okay if you're part of a concave, like if your Roadhog is here and you're potentially over here. This isn't normal positioning. Usually you two would be flipped. So let's say your Roadhog is here and you're here. I don't mind that you seem like the front line because you have different space control. You have a concave around them that is threatening them from most directions. But this tip of the spear formation where you're the tip, that's almost always wrong. Does that sort of make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
You want the tank to create the space, not the DPS.
Yeah, and again, that doesn't mean that your tank has to be right here for you to go, I'm going to do this, etc. But, your hog might be peeking from over here, and that's going to attract some attention, and you're happy to go, yeah, I'll click hits. And again, you're pushing a stagger, so I'm more forgiving of this than I normally would be. You're pushing a stagger. You thought you had numbers. You sort of do have numbers, but only just barely. Good.
Objective A captured. Escort the payload.
Commandeering the payload.
It's just annoying when you have passive tanks, but you're going to get that in. Is this gold? Plat? Where are we?
Plat.
Plat, okay. Yep, that's going to happen.
Mid plat.
Cool. So yeah, that's good. You're using your hog sort of as your wall there, and you're going, hey, I could go to the side, but instead I'm going to pull back to these guys. I'm just going to look at that, I think. That's fine. The flash wasn't aimed particularly well, but you still got the flash, you still got the fan. It's just a case of, hey, Tracer shows up.
Yeah.
Howdy.
Why is the payload stopped?
So this is one of those things where if you're challenging these guys who are down this sight line for you, which you are, and there's also people down this sight line, even though you have team here, you don't need to, even though you're going to suffer fall-off damage trying to threaten them from here, you're going to be happier threatening them from here because you want to deal with one threat at a time. By walking out here, you're now exposed to this threat that you're trying to deal with this way, and this threat that you know is over here at the same time. So your extra damage from being closer and, reducing your fall-off is not better than the cover here to go, I'm going to push that threat back first, and now that that threat is pushed back, I can actually take this fight for real and try to get my eliminations here.
All right.
So that's just a, be conscious of what your cover is on which side.
I've secured the payload. Let's move it out.
Yeah, it's about time we got moving. Fourth Bank of the West.
Chip. Forced out his bubble. Excellent.
Payload secure. Move out.
I think that Lucio was throwing.
Yeah, they do that sometimes. Let's take a look.
Fourth Bank of the West.
I do like that you forced out the bubble here, and I do like that, you know, you're doing this, etc. We're probably hitting a point at which I'm going, hey, we have recent eliminations on them. This becomes the two of you, and I'm just thinking, that's a Winston. It's a 2v2. He used his cooldown, so you're probably fine, but you start to get a little worried about, hey, is he going to jump at me? Do I want to start to play at the back of this car like I am? Do I want to start playing at the max distance I can to still push this car? Or am I even ready to just stop pushing this car and let my team catch up? Because your team is going to be here before his team. It's close, but they are going to be here before his team. And you, again, this isn't really a you thing, standing on the cart in front of your team pushing it like this. This sort of becomes a, okay, maybe I'm going to stand back here. Maybe I'm going to take this angle and just keep plinking you down and getting you weaker and weaker, because Winston has no poke phase. He just gets weaker and weaker the longer the poke phase goes on. So if you have to go, you know what, I don't care whether I push this cart another 2 to 3 feet. I care about winning the next team fight, which is going to get us the checkpoint, right?
Mhm.
So this sort of becomes a, okay, I've pushed the card about as far as I want to. Now I'm going to play from here, and I'm just going to exhaust that Winston because he's got such a terrible poke phase, make him jump on me, make him pick whether he's going to jump on me or Anna, and we can peel for each other, etc. There we go.
Payload secure. Move out.
Good. Right idea. Keep this angle open. You have more teammates this way than he does. Good.
That'll learn you.
Team up for special attack. The payload has reached the chip.
Flashbang kills. Everyone's favorite.
How long is this gonna take? May as well have tires on this thing.
Please move behind
Are you going to adjust your angle? I'm so happy if you do. Okay, that'll work for me. So, this is fine because there's nobody here, but this is one of those things where I thought for a moment you were going to adjust your angle and go here because you realize your Orisa is doing cart shenanigans, etc., and I would have preferred that. Your hog going here, that's fine though. You can now peek this, but if you think about, you know, your relative values, you're in a situation where, hey, you can potentially be, you know, near insta-deleted, right? Like, you've still got 225 HP, Mercy boosted McCree shots, those can be annoying, etc. if you open this, etc. Now, you see this Winston bubble, that's fine, but before you round this corner, this is the sort of thing where I'm thinking, hey, you would sure like your hog to peek first most of the time. Doesn't have to be the case, but if you want to consistently go up, it becomes a case of, I'm going to take advantage of opportunities that other teammates create rather than trying to force your own opportunities. If you're forcing your own opportunities, you have to outskill the opponent that you're forcing the opportunity against pretty darn heavily. And that's fine. You can do that. You can go, hey, I'm going to keep stacking my own individual mechanics, my own individual abilities until I can just outskill my opponent, and that's how I'll move up. But the easier way to move up, and a skill you're going to have to get at some point, is, hey, I'm going to let my hog peek, and that's going to pull eyeballs to him, right? If my hog peeks, they're going to start trying to aim at my hog, and then it's a bit more of a flick for them to aim at me on this corner, etc. I wouldn't do the same thing for your Tracer. For your Tracer, I'd go, hey, you be the distraction. But that's something you'll want to start thinking about. I see you go up here. Part of it is because you have such a passive Orisa, but you go up here a lot to go try to make things happen, to go try to make that stuff happen. And that's okay. But again, as we've talked about, when you get chipped, you're then going to play passive for more total time than you'd have had to. And you'd much rather your tanks get chipped. They can afford it better than you can. So we're going to go back and talk about this high noon a bit. It's by no means terrible, but at this point you have high noon and you've won the team fight, right? So we go back this, and you've won the team fight. They're still waiting on their Lucio, and your Tracer is taking that space for you. Now, this isn't something that you have to do. You can do this how we did, but you're waiting from here a fair amount of time. This isn't real. This is, you know, not even real poke phase. Still a couple seconds before your team is really ready to take this fight, right? So now your team is ready to take this fight. Now, McCree has a bit of an unfortunate ult in that McCree's ult works, you know, in similar situations to where Soldier's ult works, where he would like to have nice line of sight over the entire enemy team, except unlike Soldier, he's pretty bad at relocating. But you had a pretty long window before your team was ready to take this fight to potentially go across here, and you weren't going to run into anything scary because Tracer was clearing it for you first, right? So this sort of became more of a, I could go up here and I could just protect my team literally on the whole way in. Literally, I can go, hey, if they push, I can protect them the whole way in. Or if my team gets here before they seriously contested, okay, well, I'll just do my high noon from here and then I'm playing from here. I don't want you moving as McCree during fights a ton from where you are because it hurts your uptime too much and you just don't have the mobility to warrant it. But when you have long windows like that, and you'd be a little late to this fight, I'm not going to lie, but when you have extended windows like that, that's where you want to be thinking, okay, this is an opportunity to set up for high ground or to set up for, you know, a good ult, etc. Because it's good value to, like, his ult is still good from those high ground positions. He still likes those high ground positions. It's just he rarely gets the chance to take them because, well, he's McCree. That's why. Because as you see, this is kind of low value. This is, I don't particularly like this because if you think of most points, and most points are 2 team fights, they kind of give you this one for free, right? So you're kind of at the point already when the cart gets to here where one real team fight wins the match. Like, this is the sort of thing where if you win a team fight, even if they all pile on the cart here, stop it, fight for a minute, and you wipe them all, they're not really going to get another full team fight. They're going to have to trickle out and do it, right? So this high noon, if it doesn't get you eliminations, is just buying you a little bit of cart space, and it's not the critical cart space. It's not from here to here. It's from here to here. It didn't really cancel a team fight, did it?
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't really super set anyone else up for, you know, your Tracer to sweep in and eliminate them or anything either. Just close the angle, close the angle. Your wrist is already out. Yeah.
Need a doctor.
So, not a big deal. The better retreat was this direction because it created a situation where if they push into your team, you get to shoot them in the, you know, in the side, in the head, etc. as they're retreating. You've got the health pack here. You still meet up with your team here. You want to create situations when you can where, especially if it doesn't cost you movement time, we're going sort of either way exposes their flank to the rest of your team. That's what we're talking about when I'm saying.
If I push that angle though, and my team's falling back, wouldn't I get beamed by the Zarya though?
No,
she's high charge right now.
You wouldn't push this angle. You would. I'm saying retreat through this angle.
Like for the health pack, was that what you were saying?
Oh no, I'm not saying actually grab the health pack. What I'm saying here is your team is backing up here, definitely. Here, let's go back and illustrate better because we definitely need to talk about it. You're gonna get pushed by that. All I'm saying is, as your team is backing up here, which we're about to see.
Oh, go over there like when I was going.
Exactly.
Full HP?
Exactly. Right. So you just go over here. I'm not saying you have to go over here and get the health pack, but your team is clearly backing out of this fight. Your Zen and Hog have left this fight. Your is trying to use this Fortify to leave. You're leaving, and I think you end up going this way, and I'm just saying I'd prefer you to go this way, because this just becomes a very simple, if they push your Orisa, you go, oh, cool, I'll take free headshots while you're not looking at me. If they push you, well, okay, maybe your Orisa's going to see them. It's going to depend on if she's backing up or is turned around and full-on run, etc.
Need a doctor.
Did you get healed back up after you took this chip damage, or was this
Yeah.
ultimately a
I got
result
healed.
of the chip? Yeah, you did.
Need a doctor.
Yeah, you had the Harmony Orb for a while there. Yeah, okay, fine. And you just don't have flash for him, so it doesn't matter? Okay.
It ain't my time.
But again, if you'd had the high ground during that rotation period, that whole punish that they did is much, much harder.
Nano boost is ready. Get in there, and I'll hit.
He's out. Good. Now you need to think about him again. And again, you don't need to push in here yet. There's targets that you can see from here that are totally in your effective range, right? So you don't need to be pushing in here yet, where you are, again, sort of in front of your team and you're exposed to all of this danger that, you know, this team is pretty much unilaterally shooting in this direction. And, you know, these shots that were potentially meant for your Ana, were potentially meant for your Orisa, are now going to maybe find you, when if you stay here, you still have targets to deal with. So you don't need 4 targets to pick between. You're plenty happy to put damage into these 2 targets, right?
Mhm.
So I just want you to be a little more aware of when you're opening angles, when you're stepping in front of your team like this, because just take the fight in front of you like this rather than opening it up to you versus the world like that. I just want to see the order that happened in.
I think we popped it at the exact same time.
Excuse me for dropping in.
I think you did. That's pretty great. So technically you win this, but I don't expect you to realize that. And the reason for that is I believe it's still the case where you don't get to see the skull early when you have a damage boost in effect.
And what about this shield too?
Yeah, you've got
In
the
front of
shield too. Yeah. And he's from the left, so you'd hit him first. That's unfortunate. He's always going to win that one because you've got hit the shots come from the left, and you're right. Even though you've got skulls there, your first shot is going to break the shield, but not hit him because it was the one meant for him. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Of course, your team wasn't a credible threat when you pulled it. Like, I'm sure you know that. You pulled it because you're like, I see a lot of good targets. But if we talk about whether your team was really giving you any meaningful ability to set this up,
It's high noon.
Sin's in here a little, Orisa's in here a little. I mean, again, it's at the same. He's doing the same thing, but it's at, you know, you're at basically the same angle as your entire team here. Your Hog's not really in it yet. Like, it's just your Tracer's definitely not in a place where she's doing work yet. It's sort of like your Orisa is barely in this, and your Zen's in this, and that's sort of, you know, you're going to draw the opposing fire here. Okay.
Team up for special attack.
Hello.
this one is short enough that you consider going and taking this angle to do work.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
It's high noon.
Scratch, you'll be fine.
Easy. I'm on fire.
Okay. Slasher from behind, sort of. Okay. So that's fine. Definitely the biggest thing we're seeing is your being the spear too often, or being in places where enemies from multiple sightlines can see you when you only need to challenge one at a time. We saw that going into second in, we saw that on third, and we've seen the head of the spear thing a few times, and that's the more dangerous thing, though really thinking about either of them a little more will mostly solve both.
Justice ain't gonna dispense itself.
Truly is wasted on the young.
You're certainly making their tracer a little unhappy, though.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's like, I mean, who else would have dealt with the tracer? Because if I'd left the
Oh, I
tracer alone.
I agree. I'm just saying you're being successful at it. You're not forcing her out. You're getting the eliminations, etc. And, you know, that's always going to tilt her team at her a little bit.
4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective.
Team set up with Hagarissa again. Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
shouldn't have dropped there.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. You know, it's
Team
all good.
dropped, and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I dropped. Because
Yeah.
that's probably why they dropped, was because they saw me drop.
Oh yeah, they see you down there and go, that's a team that, you know, performs in the, that's a hero that performs in the pocket. We better help him. Yep, let them push back in. You're fine. It's the point that matters, not each thing.
Hey,
It's fine. Oh, you had the patience to not roll there. I'm impressed. Nice.
That's like a second off the health pack.
Yep, I know. I know. I was a little disappointed you didn't take a shot at the Lucio as he sort of, like, you aimed your crosshair a little up, which was actually where he came across, but you didn't take the shot because you, I think, decided hiding was better to wait for the health back, which I disagree with. After he's taken damage, he's going to play a little different, but that's, I mean, I get it.
let's start over.
Yeah,
at
the big thing
beginning.
there was no, there wasn't a good enough reason to leave high ground. You know, if they come through that thing, that's fine. They come through that thing, you plink them along the way if they come through security.
Mhm.
I need a doctor.
They're running right now. McCree tracer. Okay.
Get in there.
Don't move.
Огонь по готовности.
Yeah, you didn't really have a way through there. Let's just take one more look at, did you need to be there in the first place?
Don't move.
Огонь по готовности.
Fine. Yeah, I mean, you could have known that they had grav, but I'm really not worried about the decision to be there. Better to be there than to be back where you're threatened from both sides.
Howdy.
Team up for special attack.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
Well, hello.
Okay, let's make sure we set up on high ground for this. High ground, other way, other way. So this is just another one of those things where your team is either going to decide to take the fight here-ish and maybe get 2 if they then win a fight and it rolls back a little, etc., or your team is going to push up and fight it. Either way, you have valid high ground that you can use to make this difficult on them, and they don't really have a great way to challenge high ground. They have Diva, and that's pretty much it, and you just have to go, oh, Diva, you're coming for me? Okay, I'm going to, round the corner, etc., wait till your bubble wears off, all that good stuff. So, that would be a good thing that we'd be wanting to do. You'd potentially run into a Tracer up here. You know how to make her life difficult. So this is the thing where you're going, hey, we're here. I'm going to go for my high noon. Maybe I'll drop as I'm doing my high noon, etc. But especially when you have those high noons, when you're coming back from a team fight, won or lost, think about, should I be pathing? Is there time to path to high ground for this?
Готовности.
Last time I checked, this was not my thing.
Can definitely push into this. You're up by enough.
It's doing out there. We're going the wrong way.
Hey there. I'll have another.
Helden sterben nicht.
Oh, yeah.
This life's never uneventful.
What's going on here? Yeah, you're doing it, but then you don't find him fast enough on the relocate. I mean, you know the basics of Genji's there, where if you're going to use dash, you've pretty much immediately got to 180 that into hitting him in the head with the shurikens, and that's fine.
Hold up now. Let them up.
Огонь по готовности.
Yeah, I don't play Genji a lot. I don't know why I picked him there though.
Okay.
I think I stayed with him because of the blade though.
Got it. Yeah, I was a little surprised you walked out on him, but it's fine. I mean, it's not terrible. Definitely don't play behind your shield like this as Genji, though. I mean, you're much more interested in, hey, I want to use this flank control. I want to be able to poke from weird angles like up here, etc., over their shields. Definitely don't, play shield break war over here with Genji. But we'll see how this goes. And you have the blade, so that's fine. Okay, they're pushing. This is a real push now, and you can see it. They've kind of committed to this, but they're not in yet. So you could go, hey, I'm quickly going to go over here and then drop behind you guys to Blade, in which case you'd find, oh, hey, there's a Doomfist in the way. And, that's someone I want to...
Because of the Ana.
What's that?
Ana for the nano blade. I want to, because sometimes it's hard for the Ana to press Q in this rank, so I kind of want to make it easier for them by playing in front of them.
I hear you, but the idea is you're going to drop down and try. Surely she's going to hit that nano. Surely, I get it. I do get the concern. It's just if you make it too easy for her, by definition, it's more easy for the opponents. But okay, I can live with that.
Helden sterben nicht.
Halt blades are pretty good, but I'm guessing this Orisa isn't calling her halt.
Oh no, I'm good with that person actually.
The
I play with
Orisa?
them pretty frequently. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Halt Blade is pretty good. You would need to start pulling out your blade before she throws the Halt generally, but you know, if she's confident she can hit him, even regular Halt Blades without a nano, those are a lot of damage, and your team will chunk through the team in those cases. Cool. And we're gonna stay Genji? We are gonna stay Genji. Okay.
I'm not too sure. Probably because I popped off there.
Yeah, there you go. Why not? We don't want that. You didn't have dash back, okay? I mean, you know, that's just a case of where if you don't have your dash to instantly dash bind cover from there, you need to be already closing your cover as your deflect wears off, because obviously he can hold his high noon for longer than you can deflect. Okay, that's fine.
I'm just unfamiliar with them completely. I should have just swapped when I hit the
That's fine.
blade. I don't know why I can't play him.
We don't need to keep talking about it. I'm just seeing things where I'm like, you know, you're standing in front of your team like you're going to deflect a lot of damage while playing into Winston Zarya. That's not going to work. You know, I'm just, but it's fine. Well,
Nothing to worry about.
Echo,
Unless
okay.
there's something to worry
Yeah,
about.
I do play Echo though,
Okay,
quite a bit.
I'm good with Echo. Are you going to get any team support? A little bit from your Anna, perhaps. Okay.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
ازيك؟ I have your back. System health compromised. Adjusting angle of attack.
30 seconds.
I would go literally right back up here right now. Like, you have no interest in
I
being
think
on
that's what I
San
did.
Diego on your team. Okay, got it. Because I just see you have boosters and aren't, or flight, and you're not immediately heading back up there, which is good.
You're powered up. Get in there. Detected.
It's a long time that you've not used cluster bombs there. It's cluster bombs off cooldown. Cluster bomb on cooldown.
You're powered up. Get in there. Detected.
Okay. I mean, it's not like, it seems to not be a regular habit. That one was just a long streak of not using it. And cluster bombs is not a hold to cooldown. You hold to counter things, but that's fine.
Is this a non-relevant conversation?
Objective A captured. Combat value. Escort the payload.
Move out of my way. Come on, I got a team coming.
Surely we're gonna take a different angle any second now. Yeah, any second now. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think I did that. I
Okay.
should have actually.
yeah, no, I was surprised.
Yeah.
Like, I was a little surprised you didn't even go through here just to generate a different angle and then pop up here. But like, anything to get up here as quick as possible.
That would
because-
have been a really good angle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. definitely not your job to be on the card. Like, I get the high noon freaked you out, so you landed over here rather than on here. But, definitely we want to be working our way back up here, make them really crane their necks, pick who they're looking at. They look at you, you just close the sight line. They go, oh, well, now I have to look back here because I'm getting shot. You reopen the sight line. You get easy angles to hit your triple shots, your cluster bombs, etc. Like that, that's why you see the Echoes, the Genjis, etc. come out on this point, because the high ground is pretty damn oppressive.
Learning from that one.
Round 3.
And I assume we had our duplicate when we went down. No, we did not. Okay.
Yeah, I think if I had it, I would have popped it like immediately there.
Complete.
That's what I expected too, but I just wanted to make sure because, again, different players are at different levels of being conscious of that.
Ready. Ready for battle.
I recommend moving behind my barrier. Changing position.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Good pressure.
Attackers incoming.
I think I could have ducked there.
Defend objective A.
Maybe prevent my death there.
Potentially. I want to see if there's anything more fundamental. Keeping your tags. Like, this is how I want you playing McCree, by the way. And you'll notice the current McCree is playing McCree like this, right kind of with your tank core, etc. With your Echo, you can actually be doing a little more of the, you know what, I'm willing to pop up over here, lay my scatter bombs from here, do shots from here, I've still got this as cover, and then I'll still make sure that I land in such a way that I land back here with my team. So you don't get a ton of time, but you can go, hey, I'm going to shoot as I go across, I do my shots, and then I end up back. Flight isn't that long, but it is enough time to regularly do that. And be creating the different angles by doing so. Yeah, so this is just like a rule of tanking that you're abusing as a DPS. You don't expose yourself when you're purple. Like Reinhardt knows that when he's purple, his shield goes up, it just has to, etc. And you, rather than going, oh, I'm going to stay, I'm going to clutch behind this cover, behind my tank, this is you going out into the open while you're purple. You see how you further exposed yourself? Yeah, while you were purple. So that's just and you really treat discords in purple that same way, where you go, hey, I just can't go do, I literally can't open this. I have to close this when I'm in this situation. Tracer. No, I mean, that's just a target selection issue. Okay, so you have both of them on your screen. You know both of them are here. If you go after the Zarya, the Ana is for sure going to be aware of you and will either heal Zarya or see you. If you go after the Ana, the Zarya may or may not instantly become aware of you. And that, first 3/4 of a clip is sort of the highest amount of your damage when you're going to get the most value, right? So for sure, the right answer here is to go, let me see if I can get Ana 3/4 eliminated, before there's any other interaction, engagement going on, etc. And you definitely have the blinks to go try for that play instead of the Zarya. And that's too far. So again, she's not really looking at you. She's looking this way, and you start trying to pepper her from this distance. I know Tracer's range damage isn't like terrible anymore. They buffed that probably a year and a half ago at this point. But you still do a lot more when your spread isn't betraying you, when you're in close on them, etc. So if someone doesn't have if you don't have someone's attention yet, and you want to do work, you don't want to just, push people around, move them around a little, which is valid as Tracer. If you actually are going, hey, I want to really contribute, I want to get eliminations, I don't just want to herd people around, on this you'd potentially go in and you'd try to get her while she's distracted here. Now you might then see the Lucio and go, okay, fine, I'm out, I don't want it, but you aren't going to open from this range unless your intent is to be very defensive and you don't really want anything. You're just going, hey, let me get a little bit of ult charge, let me move you around a little, let me split up your team, etc. And you don't want to split up her team right now because your team has
Well,
dealt.
what about distracting the Ana?
Well, distracting the Ana is fine. If your thought here is, hey, I just want to tie up the Ana a little bit while my team deals with the Orisa, that's fine with me. So if that is the or while my team deals with the Diva, that's fine. So if your contribution right now, your mental process is, I just want this Ana paying attention to me, and I want her doing it at a range where, I'll distract her for 6 seconds and then leave, and my team will handle Diva easily in that time, that's totally fine. If you're trying to go, hey, I want to remove her, I want to have the higher level contribution, you'd go in closer before you shoot at her. But if the distraction is your intent here, this is absolutely right. You don't really necessarily want to jump back here. You can actually just sit right here or right here to recover blinks, right? Because you're not going to want to engage the team from the same direction as your enemy, so there's no need to drift across like this.
Let them up.
Good juke. You have some like hopeful aim stuff where you're like, I'm shooting my hit scan hoping she'll round the corner. That's like a Zen thing. That's like a projectile thing. You don't shoot at corners hoping that they're going to round it with hit scan abilities like this. And you also have some I'm shooting and you drag a little long here. And I'm not one to get overly critical of mechanics. I'm just not. It's not a thing that makes a ton of sense unless you're physically doing something like this wrong and you're not aware that you're doing it wrong. Where it's like,
well, I'm pre-firing it just to get like that few extra damage. Would that be okay?
Generally, no. Your clip is small enough
No?
as Tracer that you don't want to be. So we'll do an example. So like this, I don't think you're consciously aimed yet when you started this clip yet. Like, I don't think you are mentally aiming yet when you start shooting at this Tracer, if you sort of follow what I'm saying. Like, you're starting to...
I'm not like I'm just like shooting as soon as I hear.
Yeah, you're sort of like, there's a Tracer on my screen, I better start shooting and then I'll drag my clip to her. Your most accurate moment with Tracer is going to be the beginning sort of when you start shooting. I mean, that's going to be true of any hit scan type thing. And it's okay to go, oh, hey, I'm shooting and I'm losing them, etc. And I'll recorrect, of course. That's how it works with tracking. You recorrect, etc. And you can sometimes overswing a little and bring it back, etc. But I'm going to do this one more time because we can use that clip and I know where that clip is now to example it. You deal with the McCree first. And I think it's this one. So, like, again, totally don't mind that, if your aim is just drifting, if you're just struggling to get to the Tracer, etc. But I don't think there's sort of a order of operations to your brain, will effectively say, where I think you're shooting before you've aimed this clip, and with how quickly you go through Tracer's clip in general, no. Like, you've already wasted 10 shots. You've already wasted half a clip and you haven't gotten it dragged to her yet, if you follow what I'm saying. So I just want you to be aware of that habit. It sort of becomes I'm going to say aim then shoot. They're very close to each other actions, but it is like very slight order of operations. Aim then shoot, not enemy is on my screen, shoot and drag my cursor to it.
attack.
Okay.
Victory.
So that's good. But what I'm going to say here is probably the biggest thing we've seen with. Let's jump to a place where I have map to actually see. Mercy, isn't it? Whatever. It doesn't matter who we're controlling. Biggest thing I'm going to want you to be aware of, since you sort of played, lots of different heroes here, the biggest thing I'm going to want you to be aware of that'll apply to all of them is I want you to be aware when you're in a position where enemies can shoot you from two different directions, like we saw here, right? Because that's almost always not a situation you want to be in. You want to close the angle like this, so you're shooting in that direction, or go, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll go through here, and then you're only shooting at me in one direction, etc. You want to be in situations where you have good concaves on the enemies. So if the enemy is in the street, your hog is here, you're here, or your echo, you're up here. You want good concaves on the enemies. You don't want to be in situations where the enemies have a concave on you. So if your echo standing here, or McCree standing here, and they're here, and they're here, that's bad. Or they're here, and they're here, that's bad. And you would like to force it into a situation where they're only coming at you from one direction. So that part makes sense, I assume?
Yep.
Okay, cool. The other thing I think McCree was probably the most played hero, so I'm going to say let's get into this on McCree, is I don't think you got any real high noon value. Do you disagree?
Oh yeah, I definitely didn't get any high noon value.
Okay.
I think I used it just for zoning, really.
So yes, so since you did, get a couple high noons and you didn't get any value there, like, everyone has a bad ult, everyone has an ult that sometimes they go, okay, I'm going to do this to try to do it at the end of overtime, or I'm going to try to do this for the last thing, and that would be fine. But I want you to be a little more aware of when you have your ult specifically as McCree. Okay, is there time for me to go take a meaningfully different angle from my team that will surprise the enemy a bit or be pretty extreme from my team? Like if my team is coming in this way, bad part of the map. If my team is fighting here, can I go, okay, I'm not usually going to go spend my time to get up here as McCree to high noon, but, if we just won the first team fight here, is there time for me to go up here? Or if we lost the team fight, but I got out alive, am I able to tuck away and then right when they start engaging, elevator up and go do like this? So like specifically when you have high noon, I want you to think about, is there a big, meaningful, different angle, etc. I can take? And it dovetails nicely with what I want you to do with Echo, which is, I don't want you riding the cart with your McCree partner straight in a line like this, etc. I want you up here. I want you using the best part of her kit, which is her ability to get angles. I mean, she's a Pharah that has better mobility and more precision. So like, let's use that better mobility to take advantage of her extreme poke over here. Same thing over here. This is potentially fine, but don't be afraid. Don't go here when it's 6 of them just looking at you. But when they're actually engaged with your team, that, 4 or 5 of your team are shooting from here, yeah, absolutely. You can dart up over here with flight, go do it, and still get back here and land. And you're a little bit exposed as you're going through here, but it's a pretty minor thing. And if you take too much heat, you just drop down and then are here poking from here at a different angle until your next flight cooldown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So basically it's going to come down to, hey, let's think about angles. Let's think about, does the enemy have more angles on us? That's bad. I should close some of them. Do we have more angles on the enemy? That's great. Or, oh, we don't? Maybe I can go open them. Don't open them as McCree unless it's between fights, but as Echo, definitely open them. I think that's going to be a general thing, and I have to keep it pretty general since you're playing a lot of DPS heroes right here that is going to help you. Like, concaves are like damage boosts for your team that matter a lot, whereas being in a concave is like a giant damage boost for the other team. Cool. So now I'm going to leave it to you. We're at time here, but if you've got, 5 minutes worth of questions or so, I'm happy to answer most places that questions would go. So by all means, shoot.
All right. For like the whole thing, are you able to like create like a note thing for me to like look back on for when I'm playing like a video, like a comp or whatever, to like study?
I am able to write up sort of what I think your main focuses should be. Yes, I'm
Yeah,
not.
like
Go ahead.
yeah, like what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy to write up a main focus thing, like the basically like the 3 topics I wrote up there. I'm totally happy to write those up and send you that over in note form. Yes.
All right. Well,
Cool. Cool.
yeah.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Then I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, you can certainly find me. You can shoot me through Discord. You know how to contact me at this point. If you're looking for more coaching in the future, that's great. Definitely let me know. But I would spend some amount of time going, hey, can I really ingrain this first? Like, make this your focus, even if your gameplay suffers a little bit. Make improving on this thing, improving on understanding your angles, a focus of your game for the next 5, 10, however many games until that feels like it's sort of part of your autopilot to go, oh, I'm in the open being shot at from multiple sides. I should not do that. Oh, our team's only shooting at them from one direction. That's hard. Let's open up another angle, etc. And until that sort of starts to become autopilot, I want you to focus on that a bit. Cool.
And mechanical skill, like, is my mechanical skill bad? Do I need to improve on it? Am I like doing decent for
No, your
my rank?
McCree is totally fine for your rank. Your McCree was totally fine for your rank. Your Echo was actually, yes, hitting plenty of shots for your rank too. And your Tracer we talked about. We talked about, hey, when you're using a tracking weapon like that, I do want you consciously aiming first, aim, then press the trigger. They're very close action, but it is aim, then press, not press, then drag type thing. And if you get way off when you're using a tracking weapon, you will find that it's worth it to let go of the trigger, redrag, and, then press the trigger again, etc. That is going to help you get better value, etc.
All right.
Okay. Then best of luck to you. Happy climbing, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.